I liked DanDaDan last year, and if you're here, then I'm guessing you did too. The first arc of Cour 2 is not disappointed. It is absolutely ridiculous. Evil Eye introduced a ton of different antagonists, but ultimately it's a story about a human evil, a very down-to-earth monster. It's an arc that features worm corpse, fire engines, possession, centuries of cruelty, an amazing original song, but it's really about a much more grounded story, an emotional roller coaster from lows like this to triumphs like these. Where do we pick up with this second part of DanDaDan? Exactly where the last Cour left off, with that uncomfortable scene. It's strange that 2 times a batch of episodes have begun with that, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. It doesn't take too long for things to start escalating in that classic DanDaDan way though, moving from one threat introducing another and spiraling, meaning by the time we reach the crescendo, there's so much going on it's easy to have missed some bits. But this arc is very much about a human sin. Before any of this nonsense, the house is already soaked in human blood. The family are the real pieces of work here. Sure, we got a worm, but it's just a worm. It's doing what deaf worms do, probably. Evil Eye wants to kill all humans, but has this childish bent. The real problem are these guys. They're awful from the second they're introduced. While they might not turn out to be entirely human, they are acting as a fairly mundane threat here. The Kitos have an absolute stranglehold on the village, rationalizing the most horrible things as protecting it. But that isn't why they're doing it. They're so insistent on keeping the traditions and ceremony intact, but the only tradition they're actually into is murdering family after family to keep their own power going, treating the village as their personal fiefdom. And no one stops them as they're saving the town. It's a protection racket. They're murdering families in a ceremony to run a protection racket over a small town and run riot there. You can see in how they treat Gigi when they visit him as a landlord. It's a very human-like villain, even if they are underground monsters. The real heroes of this story might be the Chamber of Commerce. They're the only guys in the damn town who stand up to it for whatever reason. Even once they begin their human sacrifice, their visuals are also tied up in this specific evil. It all takes place in this incredible maze of houses, of families they've thrown in there. I don't think it's coincidence that the insides of the house mass look like, well, mold. The houses that trap the inhabitants. It's taking a physical representation of that kind of rot and utilizing it for the psychological attacks in the house. The supernaturally or extra cruel level of bad landlordness. That's physically reminiscent of a more normal version of that kind of cruelty. They're particularly insidious because even if they weren't doing the elevated sin of sacrificing people, they're understandable monsters. They make sense in a normal world. They are people who run a protection racket, take advantage of anyone in need, and then frame it as doing them a favor. There's shots of them towering over Okarun, and the same for Momo's ordeal. They're treated just as imposingly as the yokai, even when they're in a human form. The biggest threat in this arc, the most disgusting one, is these people. But they have born a bit of a monster. The worm is so big because it's been eating so damn well. And when they're performing their little ceremony, they're dancing in the shape of an eye. The Kitos kick the plot off by throwing our protagonists into a pit of shame they've created, into an environment that physically represents the built-up years of hell in this village. It's such a creative place for this to happen. The anime even adds this darkness, this thickness of the air. Every shot reinforces how long it's been going on. We've also got nature and a worm which conjures up Dune-style music whenever it goes. And this guy, this product of human sin, is where we get this arc's iconic, horrific DanDaDan flashback that it breaks you. As soon as we're down here, Gigi starts getting flashes of the evil eye, the yokai reaching out for someone to notice him, to play with him. Gigi is a strong guy. He's just gone through a horrible personal tragedy, found something truly disgusting underneath, been attacked by his friends, and he's still reaching out. And for his trouble, he'll lose all autonomy for a little while. That's a reoccurring thing for the teenage cast here. The Kitos are massively taken away his autonomy. We got whole scenes of that. And then their victim does the same to Gigi. The yokai gets a flashback, which is brutal. This kid, alone, being sacrificed. That human sin that the monk talked about is the real issue at work here. here. Subterraneans or not, plenty of humans seem to go along with this setup. This flashback is different in the manga from the anime though. We saw a few changes in the Acro Silky one, but this time it brings just a little bit more in to take it a little further. The use of colour adds a lot. There are also just some extra touches when the sacrifice is physically happening. This shot with the fire, you can feel the heat, but it's stopping short of showing the burning. We see more of the remains of the boy in the anime too, which does this weird animation thing in some shots of the present day, which is just gloriously jarring, weaponizing the art shift to unnerve the viewer. It's only a few extra bits in this sequence, but of course the music, the color, the adaptation goes further than just depicting what's on the page. It takes every advantage of the medium change. It's tempting just kinda to expect this level from DanDaDan at this point, but it is a fantastic adaptation. Generally, it pushes it just a bit further. DanDaDan always knows what it's doing with these flashbacks, but they also help to bridge between the character and the yokai. Gigi is willing to play. He's the perfect foil for this creature, thinking he'll take over a vessel, but being offered a big brother. Evil Eye is a great fit to explore Gigi. It's his optimism that sees his autonomy taken away. The last time Gigi and Okarun played together, it was football. Now they recreate that with a deadly twist. We couldn't have asked for a better studio to handle DanDaDan, and it's really on show here. There's a lighting and color stuff that I love. You know, I don't know about you, like this transition from the goo to the surface is really cool. I got no big point about this little cut here, but this kind of flair is all over in the direction, and in the writing, there's so much depth to how the action is done too. The fight between Gigi and Okarun, it's a hyperactive sequence. We get running, parkour, football, launching a chair as a multi-stage rocket. Okarun and Gigi are playing again, but with more power. It all shows off how childish Evil Eye is, frustrated when he doesn't get what he wants, making everything into a game. It's rooted in the friendship between Okarun and Gigi before things escalated, which makes it all the more impactful. The mess of houses showed how long it was going on. It turns out that's the perfect environment for a kinetic fight like this. It eventually comes to a boil when he traps Okarun in a really bitter Monopoly house. Okarun breaks out in a fantastic payoff to the few episodes before. He's getting something out of all that training, even counting the reps like he did with the squats. While his ovary is too broken to really move that much. He went too hard on leg day and is struggling with the stairs out of the gym. It happens to the best of us. At this point in the arc, we're kind of at the peak of the descent. We started with a simple problem. Gigi lives in a creepy house. Then we got new layers of the issue introduced. The Ketos, the serpent, eruption, the house, the worm, Evil Eye, subterraneans. And as each comes up, we're descending further and further into this mess. But now we're finished in the base of the pit. It's time to start dealing with some of those toys that were left out before. This arc has escalated so quickly, you can forget about what's going on. Forgot the slime? Now the cat's stuck in it. Forgot the death worm? Nah, he's back. Remember that geyser that shot off in the rainbow? Now it's time to start dealing with all of them, and the real villain, the human sin. With Gigi literally overtaken by a yokai, Okarun trapped in goo, only one of our protagonists has any agency. Momo, back on the surface, has to start cleaning up some of those plot threads. It's an element I always love in DanDaDan. Situations are constantly elevated, jump from one crazy thing to another, but characters will still have such human reactions. Excitement over a solution, frustration, fear, it all really feels quite real. We didn't need to see her try and fail with sheets or get frustrated from a lost phone. But we do get all that before she burns the house down, which clearly she enjoys so much she briefly gets devil horns. It's similar when the worm is dead and Momo is just trying to figure out if it's really, really dead. And no matter how silly the situation gets, the characters stay grounded as something believable. Once the fire's going, we're at the stage of the arc where it could be all wrap-up or payoff. Evil Eye has jumped from concept to concept, introducing so much. But it all comes back together for the end. Even the monk shows back up, with a previously unmentioned connection to the main plot. As the volcano erupts, that time wandering around the village and setting up the stakes pays off. Momo decides to use the death worm as a giant fire extinguisher, which is it's absurd, it's ridiculous, it looks cool as shit, and it's so much fun. not the way I saw the Sad House arc ending. We kind of re-deal with every problem, get the worm finished off, as the animation in this section is lovely. I particularly like the bits over a sunset. Now, it's the Keto's turn, since they're back for some reason. Finally, the volcano gets set off, and then nature comes into play. Each of these has a role. It's very clean and tidy, each stage just chucking you around emotionally. Momo is the only one with autonomy still for this conclusion, and she's reaching a boiling point of frustration, as every adult any of them interact with seems to be a hindrance or unwilling to listen to reason. There's something universal in that. And then there's the Keto's insistence on their own interpretation of the occult. They're a nice foil for our characters who are so seeped in it at this point. We start to get every other character not accounted for yet appearing, and minus the best character in the whole series, for some reason they're not involved. But Mr. Mantis Shrimp is here, and his kid who treats us to a great song, the dummy, the granny, it's all there. It's almost a tad weird to start the season off with this. It feels like as a conclusion of the first half, it might have felt like such a clean ending. But you know, when it looks this good, you gotta just allow for whatever scheduling needs. Everyone gets a unique style in this fight. The cigarette bouncing off Evil Eye is a personal favorite shot. There's kind of a sense of conclusion for everything we've seen so far. We even revisit the William Hell overture, that song from the first arc. A cracker of a plan to deal with the Evil Eye. It's just a great ending. It takes every element and blows it out. It's the narrative equivalent of burning down the house. Ridiculous and a lot of fun. And then to actually finish things off, we get back to the beating heart of DanDaDan. The kicker to this arc, yeah, it's this song, but it's also this bizarre chain of events has been framed through one relationship. Or, you know, look, hey, they held hands. In the final stage, the color palette has changed again. Now it's kind of hellish as nature is kicking in, but with most of the problems dealt with, where's Okarun got to? The emotional climax, all that ridiculous stuff happened, but there was one detail we didn't finish. Two are still trapped and missing. Momo's reaction to thinking he's in the magma goes on just a bit longer than what might be comfortable. Such a good performance, like panicking over how to pull them up. It's just slightly more than what's necessary, just a bit of a human touch to keep things feeling real. Okarun gets his turn of having his autonomy removed, but he's had complete faith someone is going to save him. He's been protecting the cat even, who was, probably trash-talking him the whole time, right? Like, how long was he in that shell with that cat? What horrible things did it say? Alright, so we know he's not dead, but it's a touching moment, and it re-grounds the arc in the progressing romance, that slow down to deal with real feelings over height. We might have had all this crazy stuff happen, but it was all ultimately framed around this hug. Then that amazing sequence of touching hands in the back of the car. What a scene. It really made you feel that whole caught up in their own world thing. It's such a choice to make the little milestones that feel so important at that age feel important when you're watching. These moments, that's what it was all about. We got the whole idea of the volcano erupting, the monk, all that, because Momo was hoping to show Okarun the sights. The fight was a recreation of these two bonding after a brief jealousy period. Oh yeah, I remember we're actually still in the middle of a childhood love interest jealousy friend plot. Then killing the worm was a mix of the conversation from all the setup. It's all framed from the everyday, which keeps the most outrageous bits DanDaDan pulls completely anchored to the most relatable stuff in life. It's why it's such a warm series. We can go from this to this and feel every beat in between. So often a show would cut at this gag. He accidentally fell in the wrong place, haha. But it doesn't. It's nice. I like the Okarun and Momo plot, essentially. I hope every stage of these two is as much of a treat as Evil Eye has been. Hey, thanks for watching. I've been Comfy Learn. If you want to see more, there's a sub button and probably some other videos on the screen. Alright, cheers.